I lost the game! I fucking hate myself. A few days ago, I made the biggest mistake I've ever made in League of Legends that single-handedly threw a game for me and my teammates. Let me run you through what happened. So we were in a ranked game at the low end of Diamond 4 where we were playing Aurelia top lane up against a Gangplank. Now a lot of the time I like laning against Gangplank because that means it's essentially a free lane. A Gangplank player typically plays really passively and he doesn't deal a lot of damage in the hyper early game, so yeah, although I might not be able to engage and solo kill him because he'll always use his free cleanse to just run away, I'll be able to out CS and bully him around, and maybe, you know, most Gangplanks still make a few mistakes that let you pick up some early kills. However, this was a Gangplank that got a lot of ganks. He got a lot of camp, and this Rengar, who is his jungler, just came top lane time after time after time to make my lane absolutely miserable. Even when I figured that he was coming and warded and did my best to pay attention, I would still fuck up somehow and give them kills. This game was just terribly depressing for me. However, thankfully, we had a really good jungler on our team. Our jungle Shaco did a good job of recognizing how much time the Rengar was spending top lane, and when you see your top laner being camped as a jungler, you have a couple of options that you can go for. You can either go top lane yourself and try and match the enemy jungler gank for gank and counter gank and see if you can maybe pick up some kills that way, or you can take free dragons, free objectives everywhere else on the map, and do your best to get free ganks off in other lanes, which is exactly what our Shaco did. The rest of our team also played pretty well, and we were able to survive the tough early game, making it all the way to mid game and then eventually late game. Now, Aurelia falls off in late game pretty hard, as you guys know, because she has the only DPS ability in the game that has absolutely zero scaling on it, so I was getting kind of nervous and shaky as we were going to the 40-minute mark, 50-minute mark, 60-minute mark, and as fights were getting more and more close, I was worried that we were going to lose automatically if we didn't win the game quickly. I mean, this was a long game. It lasted a full 60 minutes. The way the game was panning out was we were winning, but we were only winning barely by the skin of our teeth. Like, we had all these team fights, but every single time we had a team fight, we would only win with maybe one extra player. We would ace them, but only have one person alive by the end of it, so we couldn't take too many objectives, only maybe a tower here or there, never anything big to close out the match. The game went back and forth with all these little fights until it eventually culminated in the biggest one yet, where we went for Baron, we took it, and then we had a pretty intense fight in the top half of the enemy team's jungle. Our team won it pretty hard at first, but then we started overextending for kills and getting picked off here and there. It ended with me grabbing a kill, getting forced away by the enemy Karthus, and seeing our Swain run into him while hearing an ally has been slain. I then looked at the scoreboard to see where everyone stood, and I saw that it was just me and Karthus alive, so trying to think as quickly as possible about what I should do next, I decided to recall because there was a gigantic wave of minions attacking our bot inhibitor uncontested. Then, my teammates started yelling at me. Karthus wasn't alive. That was his passive. And we had a big enough minion wave mid lane that if I didn't just recall, I could have won us the game. Yeah, after that, my teammates started flaming me quite a bit and continued to do so until we eventually slipped up from typing so much, and then we lost a team fight, immediately lost the game afterwards. It was at that point that I realized, holy shit, I'm making some mistakes in League of Legends right now, and I may have peaked in rating. I played a little bit after this game and was pretty tilted, understandably so, and went on a small enough losing streak, but just big enough that I ended up getting demoted to Diamond 5 yet again, where I came to the realization that it's time for me to stop mindlessly grinding out games for the sake of finding my true elo, if you believe in that sort of thing. I found it. My skill level at the moment is that of a low Diamond 4 or high Diamond 5 player. So for us to continue Road to Masters, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty of all this and start working on improving again. Funnily enough, I think my rating is actually exactly between Diamond 4 0 LP and Diamond 5 100 LP. Every time I get demoted, I immediately get back to the promos and win them, but as soon as I get into Diamond 4, I win a few games, but then get demoted again. This has happened 7 times now. But anyway, I knew this day was coming. I know I'm not a master tier player, and I'll have to work on improvement so we can climb to ratings that we've never been, but now that we're at our peak rating, it's time to start that process. It's been a little while since I've done this, but here's the plan. This is the patented GBay99 steps to getting good at League of Legends. Step 1 starts off pretty simple. Record all your games. Every time I play a ranked match, I will record the game. I'll record whether I won or lost, what champion I played, what score I had in the game, and then some details about what went right and what went wrong in the match. So for example, this first game I recorded, I was playing Aurelia versus a Lissandra and had a pretty mediocre, not bad, not great score of 6-3-6. In this particular game, I did a few things right and a few things wrong. The largest amount of good that I did was mostly from solid decision making on when to engage and how far to go in the mid and late game, with solid splits, solid engages, and overall not bad team fighting that contributed to our constant success. I knew when our team could get kills from an engage, I engaged quickly and decisively when I saw that, and everything was pretty smooth in team fighting partially because of it. The bad, on the other hand, was I made a mistake in maxing my W first instead of E against Lissandra. For those of you who don't know, Aurelia almost always maxes W first in laning phase because it's your best ability, it gives you a ton of damage, a ton of healing, and it's also an ability that's at its best in the early and mid game because it falls off with no scaling. But against champions who are tough to chase down early like Lissandra with her E, which is basically a free escape, a free flash that has a massive distance, I need to max my stun so I can get more auto attacks off before she runs away. By not doing that, I actually lost out on some potential kills this game, which is from an overall problem of not adjusting my strategy to my opponent. So I've recorded all that, what went right, what went wrong, a little more of a broad comment on what went wrong so it's easier to apply to future games, and I can now remind myself later of what to take away from this match. Notice in this analysis, I don't really focus on whether we won or lost the game, whether I carried myself or just got carried. It's not really about the results as much as it's about the improvement. Now we move on to step 2, which is building and adjusting a champion pool that you can carry with. In League of Legends, when climbing through solo queue, there's a number of ways you can strategize who you play. You can play all the overpowered champions, you can just play the champions that you know inside and out. Which one of those two is better is something I might actually talk about in another video, but for me, I've decided to play a champion pool of a few solid picks for different situations. The champion I'm going to play most of all will of course be Aurelia. She'll be the go-to pick if I'm picking blind and have my main role, or if I'm not feeling super confident, but having a nice supporting cast for when I'm playing other roles or when I can get a nice counter pick, that's going to be pretty beneficial. Having more than just one champion to play is a pretty important thing in my opinion, so every evening I'm going to be doing my best to try and practice a couple of games and some of the other picks that I might be weaker with, in flex queue probably. I'm going to try and keep a lookout as well for whenever there's a new overpowered champion, particularly top lane, that I may want to substitute into this lineup. But then finally, step 3 is taking all this knowledge and proactively putting it to good use. We'll have some info about what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong from the notes, and we'll have our champions that we know and the ones that we found success with and the ones that we have problems on. Step 3 is just getting back to grinding out games, but grinding games while thinking ahead of time about what we should do differently to raise our chances of winning a match. Doing things like looking at the chat, looking at the compositions and champion select. Who should I pick right now with everything I know? Who's going to give me the best shot at winning? Should I just pick my main champion and try and carry? Should I try and pick a tank for composition? Will I need to TP gank because our support got autofilled? All of these things are things I should think about before going into a match. Every game I'm going to do my best to try and think about what I need to do right to make the game go well for me, whether that be win laning phase, not die early, or TP gank as much as possible, as well as thinking about what I should avoid from the mistakes I've been making recently to prevent us from losing. Don't die to jungle ganks, don't die to split push if you can't take anything, don't autopilot a small lead, whatever bad habits I've been developing as of late. Now I realize this video is probably going to have a comment section that I'm not going to be able to read. A lot of you guys are going to laugh at me and just make fun of how bad I am at throwing the game that I showed at the start of this video, but I think this is something that's pretty important that I want to be honest with you guys for. My YouTube channel as a whole is about my journey to learn more, to play better, and discuss things and get smarter. I don't want to pretend like I'm some guy that has all the answers and that I'm the best player in the world or something ridiculous like that. I have plenty of flaws and I gotta fix them. And part of that is being honest and showing you guys when I throw a game like that. But I'm pretty excited for this. I'm pretty excited. We have a whole 3/4 of a year or so left to practice, improve, and try and get masters. And if I pull it off before Red Mercy, then I can rub it in his face forever. Oh, just think about that. Besides, if we do pull this off, think of all the videos I can make about how to get better at League again and how valid they'll be. It'll be beautiful. Anyway, though, I hope you all enjoyed watching today's video. I'll probably have a Road to Masters episode coming out somewhat soon, highlighting the first first step of improvement. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.